Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I congratulate and commend my colleague Stuart Maxwell for securing this evening's debate, and can I also commend Brandon and Lauren, who led Time for Reflection today and delivered what I thought were very powerful presentations to this Parliament. It's become traditional for us to hear from young people of their thoughts and experiences following a visit to Auschwitz to mark Holocaust Memorial Day. And every year, I think it is fair to say that the presentations we receive at Time for Reflection continue to be powerful and thought-provoking. I've stood in the gas chambers at Auschwitz. I've stood on the platform at Birkenau, where individuals would be sorted into lines, those who were considered to be productive for labour within the concentration camps, and those who were to unknowingly be sent to an immediate death. And it is difficult to compute at the time that you're standing there the enormity of that situation, the idea that human beings could do something like that to one another. And I think it is fair to say, and I think the point has been made, that this did not simply appear out of the sky and arrive all of a sudden. This was a long lead-in to both the Holocaust itself, but also the Nazis capitalising upon a wave of anti-Semitic sentiment, which was often fuelled by individuals of prominence and also media outlets as well, who promoted and endorsed a certain view of the Jews, which allowed it to gain public traction and made many people desensitised to the horrors that would be committed within society even before it got to the stage of the final solution being enacted. And I think what I took from today's presentation by Lauren and Brandon, and from the Don't Stand By, the call that is being made on Holocaust Memorial Day, is that we often say that those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. And I fear that we are reaching that stage again, because if we look around, we see inflammatory rhetoric being put across in the pages of mainstream newspapers in relation to individuals of certain religions or ethnic backgrounds. We see it being the rhetoric of certain high-profile political candidates and politicians in relation to those of specific backgrounds. And I fear that many of the lessons and many of the arguments that have been made since the Holocaust are lost and falling on some deaf ears, as again a situation of economic difficulty gives rise to the blaming of it on a specific group or a specific section of society. And we must stand firm against that, and we must ensure that that rhetoric does not win the day, and that those people who put across those arguments and those who would be susceptible to those arguments are shown, first of all, the error of those arguments, but secondly, where those arguments lead. Because those are the arguments that would have led in the past to the kinder transport being turned away, in the way that we see many people now arguing that unaccompanied refugee children should not be accepted into our borders. They would have led in the time of the Holocaust to mass extermination of people. And that all started from arguments around who was responsible for economic difficulties that were faced by society. It started with the idea that individuals of a certain religion or background should have to be identified publicly by some form of insignia. And these are all elements that we now start to see creeping back into mainstream discourse. So we must, as we were told today, not stand by. We must stand firm against this kind of creeping rhetoric and this kind of intolerance being allowed to come back into society. So I support very much the arguments that have been put forward today, and I believe that we have much to do still to ensure that this kind of extremism does not rear its head in mainstream politics and mainstream society again.